Hi everyone, back with another video to help guide your way through discussion 2 for 5 points. And so I got my Canvas site open. I'm at the exercise 3.4, how census race categories have changed over time. And so this is going to be the core resource that I want you to think about and discuss in your next discussion forum in thinking about the concept, the social construction of race. And so Rachel Dolezal in an earlier resource kind of proposed the question, can we actually personally choose or can we individually identify with a racial category of our own personal desire, right? And a lot of folks kind of pressed back on that and said, well, race is something that you might identify with, but racism is something that your society often chooses for you. And so, as we move through other resources like the Omi and Wanat that discuss how society have formed racial categories, I want you to think about what they say through this census resource. So let's go ahead and click on this link really quickly here, and it'll take you to the Pew Social Trends historical timeline. And I want you to kind of pick some dates here from the census. And so the census collects racial data and has done so since 1790, but we'll see that from and since 1790, racial categories have changed. So, my question for you in the discussion is, what do you think is triggering these changes in racial identity in the United States, right? And so, let's start at 1790. We can see that really the only data that was collected and the only people who were racially identified were free white men and women and all other free persons and slaves. And so it does tell us about kind of the conditions of the United States, but it also tells us the ways that America has a very particular racial lens that's going to be built upon since 1790 and from it. So I'm going to skip a few years here and I'm going to head over to, let's go to the year, say 1830. And so we can see here that things haven't changed too much, but we do see, right, that racial identity is really kind of thought about still within a black-white dynamic, but now with the free and enslaved people. And so let's cut up to 1850 for a second. And you can kind of see here that the black category or the people of color category is being disaggregated a little bit based on things that are happening in society. So, what are triggering these changes in the ways that people are kind of moving um, the black category into right other categories that appear to be more multiracial. So here you can kind of see there's a preview of gender and sexuality. These are things that are going to help shape our understanding of race in the future. I'm going to come up to 1880 for just a second here. And you can kind of see here that although Native American people have always been in the United States, they're becoming identified as either Indian or Native American or later on American Indian. But I also want you to check out another category that is now introduced into the United States by 1880, Chinese people. And so Chinese people come to the United States as wage laborers, in many ways similar to the white working class coming from Europe. They're given their own racial category. I want you to think about why. But you can kind of see here that immigration is going to be a social institution that helps us understand the incorporation of, or at least the definition of, new racial peoples. Notice that in 1880, despite the fact that Mexico has been annexed to the United States, there isn't any racial category indicating Latinx people, Mexican people, or what the census will eventually call Hispanic people. In fact, the first year we actually see the category Mexican is 1930. And if I go to 1940, it disappears. And so I want you to kind of think about what are the things that are changing the ways that race is being defined, categorized, and collected in the United States. I know that race and ethnicity and culture and nationality are all kind of like these terms that are seemingly ambiguous and they collide and they overlap and sometimes they separate. But just think about what are the things that are happening in our society. So, one thing that we know, immigration is probably doing something. Annexation and colonization is probably doing something. Gender and sexuality is probably doing something to change the way we think about race and the way that we categorize people and the way that we kind of aggregate people. And so in this discussion forum, kind of use this timeline, pick some dates, and show that race is dynamically changing over time as evidence that race is being constructed historically. I want you to also try to dig into that Omi and Whatnot and really kind of think about some of the laws and policies and practices that have shaped the way that we've organized bodies together or we separated bodies apart. Our first assignment is going to be next week, and I'm hoping that this is going to be an exercise that helps us understand exactly how people got categorized. So give this a shot, message me with any questions, and good luck.